Hi, this is Susie Wilde here with a Wild Wilde reading moment, and I want to share with you something that's really wonderful to me. I love when a subject in a book gains diversity, and there are three books that came out about refugees that I think show a really wonderful richness of possible conversations, all based on this one idea. The first book I wanted to share with you is a book called Butterflies Belong Here, a story of one idea, 30 kids, and a world of butterflies. It's written by Deborah Hopkinson, illustrated by Milo So, and published by Chronicle Books. And it's a first person narrative by a little girl who cites herself in the beginning, and she describes herself, I was a little like a caterpillar then, quiet and almost invisible. There she is in the back row. And she knows a lot about caterpillars. She has a very kindly librarian who's fed her interest of reading through butterflies. And she also has a lot of identification, particularly with monarch butterflies. Monarchs butterflies are soft and gentle like my baby brother. Some monarchs make a long, long journey just like we did. They have to be strong to fly so far. And sometimes she's wondering even if she belongs here when she can't find any monarchs. In between, I love how the author has these insets that are nonfiction elements that talk about migration of butterflies and their stages and how one becomes a citizen scientist. And in the story, the little girl is challenged by the librarian to do something and to maybe start a butterfly garden. She smiled. It takes one person to get things started, and she looked at me. I'm not that kind of person, I whispered. But eventually, she gets beyond her own fear and talks about migration with her classmates and ends up getting supported by her classmates and her school and her community until at the very end, when the monarchs eventually come, she sees a monarch emerge as something new, unexpected, surprising, just like me. Second book I wanted to show you was Mexique. It's a refugee story from the Spanish Civil War. It's written by Maria Jose Ferrada and illustrated by Anya Peñas. And it reflects a true story that happened in 1937 when children were sent by their parents on a ship called the Mexique, sailing from Bordeaux, France to Mexico to save them from the Spanish Civil War. They were all children of Spanish Republicans. But again, the book succeeds because we're so much in the child's personality. Her mother tells her that we will be going there a far distance for 3 or 4 months, like an extra long summer vacation. That's what my mother said, my mother who whispered my child, and then she hugged me goodbye. That both the Chilean journalist, author, and illustrator did a lot of research for this book, and the way they've melded it with their own art style is amazing. So here are 456 boys and girls on the boat and leaving the parents. It has a lot of emotional tone. We set sail and the grown-ups stay behind on shore until they're tiny. Fathers and mothers are stars now that you can see in the distance, fires that someone lit 1,000,000 years ago. And when they are welcomed in Mexico after a long, hard journey, for the sea is a place that never ends, they play on the ship and they cry on the ship, and they are welcomed beautifully by the country of Mexico, and all the people wave white handkerchiefs that look like stars or flowers. The last book I wanted to share with you is a book called Sugar and Milk, published by Running Press Kids. It's by Thriti Umagar and Kao Liei. And it's a story about a young girl. It begins quite starkly as she arrives in a new country. When I first came to this country, she says, I felt so alone. Again, it succeeds because of our narrator. And she talks about how she dreams about the past and her mom and her dad and her cat. And they have beautiful Persian feeling illustrations that set up for a story that her aunt tells her about travelers, refugees that leave Persia and look to be given shelter. They reach the kingdom of a king who is kindly, but he feels like they're strangers and he doesn't welcome them. To show them this, he fills a glass with milk all the way up to the very top and points to it. So without words shows him that his kingdom is full. There is no room for them. However, the leader of the refugees finds, finds it within his pack sugar and very slowly and carefully stirs a spoonful of sugar into this milk, at which point the monarch understands, laughs, and welcomes him into the country. For the little girl, after hearing the story, nothing had changed, and yet everything had. And from that time forward, she carries a little packet of sugar in her life, in her pocket, and looks for the sweetness of life. This is Susie Wilde, hoping you'll enjoy these books.